Beardo Benjo.
Hello there everyone and welcome to video. Today I have no script and a brand new microphone that I haven't tested, so hopefully this sounds okay. And I'd like to talk to you about Zenith, the brand new VR MMO that launched last week. Now this game launched very successfully. It's a top seller on Steam. It's already got over 3,000 reviews on the Oculus Store, most of which are 5 out of 5 stars, and the small dev team have managed to get crossplay working across PlayStation, PC, and the Quest platforms from day one with fairly minimal issues. Now I know the game basically didn't work on launch day, but show me an MMO that did work on launch day. This happens to the best of them. I think the real test of a dev making an MMO these days is how quickly they can overcome that challenge and overcome those obstacles to get the players back into the game. And in Zenith's case, they managed to do it very, very quickly. If you load up the game now, there are a ton of servers, all with space to jump into, and all with loads and loads of players, enthusiastic players, ready to go questing with you. I think this all deserves a huge round of applause. The devs have done something really special here and they've brought the genre of MMO truly to VR. That in itself is pretty damn amazing. However, the reason I'm making this video today is because a few people have asked me where my Zenith review is, or where my Zenith videos are. Now firstly, I was on holiday last week, so I couldn't make one in time because I wasn't here to play it when it came out. And secondly, I don't think I'm going to do a Zenith review. I don't typically do reviews, and if I did, Zenith wouldn't be where I'd start, because the game is huge, and I think making a review of this type of game 4 days after launch is kind of disingenuous. You're not going to have had the time to see everything this game has to offer in that period of time to make an adequate review that really sums up what this game is and whether it's worth your time and money. However, that being said, I do want to share some first impressions with you today because I am someone who's been very, very excited for this game. I pre-ordered this game with cold hard UK currency a long time ago, back when it was in its kind of backing phase. I don't believe it was Kickstarter, but I paid for it so I could get access to the alphas, the betas, and then of course the main game itself. So I've been excited for a very long time. I played Alpha 1, I played the first beta, and now I've spent some time with the main game, and I feel like I'm ready to share my thoughts about this one. Because all my content creator friends are playing it, loving it, and having the best time. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's okay, but it's very bare bones. Now I'm not here to be negative about the game. I think the game is very, very good, but what the game is right now is a bare bones, solid foundation for something that's going to be very good in the future if the devs continue to work on it, and I genuinely believe that they will. And that's the point I want to convey with this video. If you still haven't bought Zenith and you're thinking about buying it, that's something that you should know. It's a great foundation. But as a complete product right now, it's very lacking in a lot of areas, and I just want to highlight the areas where I think it's lacking the most so that you don't get surprised when you buy it and jump in and find something that's a little bit, in my opinion, undercooked in a lot of ways. Now, as I say, all the issues and all the things I'm going to bring up in this video today, which is only going to be quite short, are things that I genuinely believe the dev team will address. They're all fixable problems. None of this stuff is game breaking, but for an MMO and for an RPG, it has soured the experience for me, and it's made it difficult for me to want to jump back in and pump more time into it because right now I feel like it's missing a lot of the things that I really love about RPGs. So let's get started. Let's talk about the things I really like and the things that I think it could do a whole lot better. One thing Zenith does really, really well is the world building. The location that it drops you in to explore is absolutely breathtaking, and it's huge. It is awe-inspiringly huge. Now what I will say is on the Quest it doesn't look quite as good as it does on PC VR. On the PC it looks a lot sharper, the draw distance is better and the colours pop. And on the Quest it feels a little flat in terms of its colours and a little bit blurrier, and you can tell that that draw distance has been scaled right back. However, a world of that size running as well as it does on the Quest is an impressive feat in and of itself. It blows me away that I can chuck that headset on and immediately be sent into this huge sprawling world with different biomes, different enemies inhabiting each of those biomes, and just an almost endless amount of space to explore. And it's not just empty space to explore. There are reasons to explore it. Your character can climb almost anything and then glide across the world if you have enough stamina to do so, and you are encouraged to do that because items are hidden in and around the world in all kinds of crazy places. Items that can increase your stamina, items that will increase your power. Maybe there's a chest hidden behind a waterfall with some gear inside it. You're encouraged to explore, and the world is very explorable. I love the amount of detail and care they've put into that, and it's something I would never take away from them. They've built a very believable and very exciting world here, and yeah, hats off to them for that. Something Zenith doesn't do particularly well is character customization, and that breaks my heart. One of my favourite things about any RPG or any MMO is building a character that truly and uniquely feels like my character, and Zenith in its current state doesn't really allow you to do that. There's a handful of different faces you can pick between, and a handful of different haircuts. And that's basically it in terms of physically changing the way your character looks. Yes, you will find different outfits in the world, but your character at this stage will look basically identical to every other character in the game, and that's a little bit off-putting, especially when you're in VR. You don't feel connected to your character if they just look like a mirror image of everyone else. Now, I jumped in with Mateo311 and Steve Knows, and our three characters looked identical, except for the fact we all had different colour hair. And that's a real shame, especially when they're asking you to spend tens of hours or hundreds of hours in this world. You want your character to really feel and look like your character. So I'd like to see some more options for scars, beards, different hairstyles, jewellery, glasses, all that kind of stuff, and even different physiques. Different sizes, different skinniness, different chunkiness. All of that is missing right now. The character customization is extremely lacking in its current state. A very easy thing to fix from the dev team, and it's something I think they will fix. But yeah, it's a real shame. The characters just don't feel unique to you. And it's a big part of an RPG. You want them to feel that way. Second thing that Zenith does really well is community. This game has already garnered an amazingly accommodating and comforting community. People in this game aren't toxic, or haven't run into any toxicity or obnoxious behaviour as of yet. People are happy to come up to you and talk. People run around chatting about where the best items are and things you can craft and what you should explore and where you should go. And that's great. It feels like you're really part of something when you're running around in that world. The same is reflected in the Discord. Yes, there were a lot of negative reviews on day one when the game wasn't running, but that's sadly to be expected in this day and age when people have a snap knee-jerk reaction to something that they wanted to play and got excited for and then couldn't. But for the most part, this game has created a really wonderful community straight away from day one, and it's very easy to jump into game and engage with those community members. You can point at someone and friend them or invite them to a party, and once they're in your party you can see them on your minimap or on the large scale world map. It's easy to jump into a guild, although I do wish the guilds gave you more for being part of them, and the community element is spot on right now, and hopefully it will only get better. I really hope toxicity doesn't start to creep in and it become kind of a bit of a gatekeepy thing. But at the moment, the community is wonderful and you can feel comfortable, or I have felt comfortable, chatting to pretty much anyone running around in the world. That being said, it's also very easy to mute people, and it's very easy to mute yourself as well if you don't want that engagement. The second thing that Zenith doesn't do particularly well right now is its combat, and that's quite a big issue considering the game is mainly combat and exploration. For me, I just feel disconnected from my actions. Now, I've tried the mage class and I've tried the sword wielding class, and I do prefer the sword wielding class, but it's still strange to me that I don't get any feedback from my attacks. It feels like I'm cutting through thin air most of the time, and although there is a system that encourages players to not swing their swords around willy-nilly, you have to really wait and time your attacks, I wish there was more feedback to the player that let you know your attacks were connecting. It doesn't feel chunky enough for me, I guess is probably the best way to explain it. Now, I didn't expect this game to feel like Hellsplit Arena or Boneworks in terms of physics interactions, because the dev team have to craft something here whereby one enemy can be attacked by multiple online players at any given time. If that was a physics-based interaction, I can understand how that just wouldn't work, but it is still quite jarring for me as a player who plays primarily VR games to chop something and not really get any feedback from that attack. Combat can also feel a little messy at times, especially if you're playing in a big group of players against a big group of enemies. It just devolves into chaos very quickly and all tactics go out the window. Now I hope that is rectified and isn't the case when you're fighting the big end game bosses and the raid bosses, but I haven't seen them myself to speak on that. My main issue with combat right now is that I don't feel connected to the attacks. It feels like I'm chopping through thin air and I need more feedback from what's happening to really make me feel like I'm there. Because that's the point of VR, right? I want to embody this character and feel like I'm landing these attacks myself, and I'm just not getting enough feedback from them. How they rectify that, I don't know. It's not a deal breaker, but for me the combat just doesn't feel satisfying. I think I'll do 3 positives and 3 negatives about Zenith for now. So my third positive is its value proposition. The amount of content you get here for the money that you pay is mind-blowing. Even in its bare bones state, there are countless hours worth of replayability in this game alone, because so much of it is just jumping in and engaging with and talking to the community members, running around and doing social activities. If you actually just beelined your way through the story, there's still an immense amount of content, but it's bolstered by all these other things you can do. You'll want to go exploring, you'll want to find better gear, you'll want to engage with crafting and cooking, and you'll want to make some friends. So the amount of time you get for the money that you put in is off the charts. Considering this game costs a similar price to most of the other games in the Quest store or on Steam or on PSVR, the amount of content you get for that money is far more impressive with Zenith. You will absolutely get your money's worth. If this is the kind of game you enjoy, you'll definitely not feel ripped off for the price you pay for this game. And that brings me to my final negative, or the final thing that I don't think Zenith does particularly well right now, and that's the gear system. The gear that you can actually find in the world for your character, much like the character customization options, is extremely lacking and very underwhelming. One of the best bits about playing any RPG or any MMO is embarking upon a crazy quest to unlock some insane weapon that you can show off to everyone that's playing the game. Zenith doesn't currently have that. There are legendary weapons or legendary status weapons or weapons that are better than everything else, but they don't look particularly exciting. They don't look like something you'd really want to show off. There's currently only 2 classes in Zenith. There's the mage, which is the shooty magic user, and there's a sword wielder, which is a choppy sword user. And both of them have no real variation over the weapons they use. As a sword user, I'd love the choice to use either the 2 swords, or a great sword, or a sword and a shield, or maybe even an axe and a shield, or an axe and a sword. But that's currently not the way the game's created. If you're a sword user, you have 2 swords, and yes, you can find better swords in the world, but their appearance barely changes, and the stats do get better, but there's no real incentive for me to go and find some crazy new weapons because the weapons aren't that exciting. In something like Legendary Tales, you can find Captain America style shields, all kinds of different swords, and that's kind of commonplace in most RPGs, and that's the driving force behind going to find new gear. You want cool stuff because you want your character to look cool and be kitted out with the very best stuff you can find, but currently in Zenith, that's just not the case. So in conclusion, where do I sit on Zenith in its current state? Well, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. The game right now is very bare bones, but it's a great foundation to build on. And I think the devs are completely devoted to building on that foundation to make something amazing in the fullness of time. If you haven't bought into the game yet, proceed with caution, read some reviews, and just understand what you're getting into. It will require quite a big time investment to really get to the good content, and just know that right now, you can't really make a unique character. All characters are looking pretty similar and getting very similar items as the game progresses because there aren't enough options right now to really uniquely make that character your own. And that's probably the biggest bugbear for me. The character customization and the combat just not feeling particularly satisfying. They're the two things and the two areas where I don't think the game is really hitting its full potential right now. But the world building, the community, and the accessibility and the controls for the most part are absolutely fantastic. And it's great to see a game of this scale landing on every VR platform imaginable. And I really can't wait to see how it grows. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, please do leave a like, leave a comment, and hit subscribe. And I'll see you soon for another one. Take care of yourselves. See you later.